Hello to everybody who's joining. We're just waiting for a couple of minutes while all the attendees join. We'll start shortly. Just one more minute. Okay, everyone. I think in the interest of time, we will begin. A very warm welcome and a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining this session at what must be an incredibly busy and challenging time for you all. So I and everyone here at Atos really appreciates you taking the time to attend this evening. Thank you. My name is Ashley Knight. I'm the Managing Director of Atos here in the UK. Also on the call will be Alana Kelly, our Head of Clinical Education, Emily Blackwell, our Head of Marketing, and Ivar van der Linden, our Global Product Manager who's based in Sweden. Thank you for joining, Ivar. So why are we here this evening? Well, we're very excited to bring you details of our brand new system of HMEs and adhesives called Provox Life. Everything we do at Atos is to try and support you as much as possible in helping your patients improve their quality of life. We truly feel that this new system will make a real difference to patients' lives by helping them to breathe better. We aim to show you this evening that Provox Life is much more than just a range of new products. This is a brand new system of 6 HMEs, 4 adhesives, plus Larry tubes that have been in development for a number of years. This has given us the time to develop the products together with patients and clinicians from both here in the UK and internationally. This project started as long ago as spring 2015 when we began to research user needs. And since then, we've gone through numerous user evaluations and consultations with clinicians until we arrived at the final Provox Life system that we'll share with you today. So before I steal everybody's thunder, in a moment, I'll hand over to Alana, who will walk you through the design and development process. Then Emily will talk to you about the system and the products themselves. And then Alana will come back at the end to present the very positive data that we already have behind Provox Life. Ivar and all the presenters will then be available to answer any questions you may have in the Q&A at the end. But please also remember that you can ask questions in the chat, where our webinar host Chloe will be looking out for your questions and comments to make sure that we capture them all and that we address them before you leave. So thank you again for attending this evening, and without any further ado, I will hand the floor to Alana.
Thanks so much, Ashley. As Ashley said, my name is Alana Kelly. I'm the Head of Clinical Education here at Atos Medical, and I've been working with laryngectomies for about 20 years, and I'm excited to share with you our recent innovation, Provox Life. So Provox Life is a system, and as Ashley mentioned, it's been in research and development for several years now, going back to 2015, when Atos worked with a company called Red Associates to complete an anthropological study to better understand the challenges laryngectomies face. This involved over 26 patients, 9 hospitals, and 50 clinician interviews, where we actually studied the day-to-day routine of laryngectomies. From this, we learned quite a lot about product confusion, the challenges that patients face, and we decided from there to conduct a much larger study, which you can see here. And this is results from over 1,700 patients worldwide, including the UK, where we again asked several questions about life post-laryngectomy. Interestingly, this was a group of patients who were pretty compliant and had been using HMEs, I think about 90% compliant with using HMEs. So you may expect their pulmonary health to be under control, but findings were pretty still significant around pulmonary problems. As you can see in the bar graph in red there, 89% of people reported cleaning mucus out of their somas several times a day. So mucus has this really disruptive impact still to everyday life, and it's really directly correlated to quality of life. The impact of coughing up mucus is still one of the patient's primary complaints, and we saw this all throughout the survey questions and responses. And it's really the biggest obstacle to living well after a laryngectomy. So for patients, persistent coughing may be more than an irritating reflex. It's this stressful cycle of irritation and a constant reminder of the previous illness as well. Next slide, Chloe. These are some real-life examples of patients we interviewed during the studies, and they may be familiar to you as we introduced these patients during our education webinars last year, where we presented the detailed findings of the study. Again, these examples demonstrate the impact coughing and excessive mucus can have on patients. You know, mucus is good. It's what captures particle and dust, and it transports it up and out of our lungs. But for laryngectomized patients, what they reported in the survey was that they face persistent and excessive problems with mucus. So here we see, you know, a patient saying he had to rush out of a social situation owing to a coughing fit at the top there. There were words like humiliating that were used as well. And this is this theme that we saw of being unprepared and for this sort of unpredictability about knowing what was going to happen came out through the study as well. So never knowing when something could go wrong, it's really hard to cope and it impacts your quality of life. Next slide. And just to touch on the clinical evidence out there, as you all know, when patients don't adhere to good pulmonary regimes, they don't get true pulmonary benefits. This study from BN in 2010 found a big difference between those patients using HMEs during the day and those who established a really good 24/7 or day and night routine. Those who were what is termed compliant in the literature got the most benefit. So this compliance is really what we're aiming for. And in this study, a good day and night routine showed a significant difference in coughing and forced expectorations across the 12-week period. But the patients had to be using an HME day and night or compliantly to have that impact on quality of life. Next slide. We see in some additional research from Perilla's group out of Gemelli Hospital in Rome that the use of HMEs can significantly decreases pulmonary symptoms. So in this group, there were 30 HME naive laryngectomized patients, and we see a big drop here in the first gray bar there to the red one, and that's statistically significant, and that's between coughing and forced expectorations on both of those charts. And this is from baseline to week 2. So almost just as soon as the patients begin to use an HME, they demonstrate a difference in pulmonary symptoms. It's also great to know to establish the sort of expectation with patients that they can achieve a significant decrease in pulmonary symptoms after only 2 weeks of HME use, and it kind of continues up to 12 weeks where it levels off. Just to note that all patients here who use the HMEs use them for more than 20 hours a day. So they were considered compliant. Next slide. So this brings us to the question, why do patients still have difficulty with 24/7 HME use despite the known benefits? So, you know, we say HMEs are designed for 24 use, and as clinicians, we educate on the benefit of this. So what's the barrier? And in our study, we found 3 main reasons. First one was feeling short of breath. So 51% of patients said they took the HME out to catch their breath, and they break that positive cycle of pulmonary rehab at the same time. Each time the HME is removed, they're losing resistance, which is so important in our patient group to prevent atelectasis. They're losing moisture, and as we say, you know, it's akin to removing your nose, which, you know, you would never do. But in our research, patients reported they had to because they felt short of breath. Skin irritation and bad fit was the second problem. So 50% of patients get skin irritation, as reported in our survey. And most patients report this is due to wearing a base plate or owing to a base plate. The third and final reason we found here was insecurity. So 51% said the adhesive comes loose owing to coughing or mucus, and this is a pretty common theme across laryngectomies. And again, it's the theme of unpredictability and never knowing when something's going to go wrong. And that negative social experience can really impact on the quality of life. And that's where Provox Life comes in. So it seemed pretty clear to us that post-laryngectomy rehab needed a new approach. Next slide. So I'm going to talk you through here some of the innovation behind Provox Life. And what's really exciting about the Provox Life system is that it was focused on what is called market-driven or patient-driven innovation. which both identifies and tackles the unmet patient needs. So each new product that we have went through this process, and it was developed over 4 years, as we've mentioned before, working with 467 clinicians and patients in 11 different countries. And we engaged them in over 20 activities, and this was market research, some focus groups and advisory boards, prototype feedback, and actual product trials, as well as some of the pre-market evaluations of the products themselves. Next slide. So we use insights from extensive research to guide our product development with the ultimate goal of improving a patient's quality of life. And here we have an example of Provox Life Energy. During the research phase, we look at the technological possibilities, we investigate them, and then we present concepts to patient to see if those concepts meet their needs. And with Provox Life Energy, a brand new HME to our portfolio, it underwent several concepts with extensive feedback. And if we look on the next slide, you can see that we took the concepts and we transformed them into 4 different prototypes that we have here. And then we gained insights from patients and fed those main learnings into a final design of the new energy HME, which we'll show you here in a few minutes. Interestingly, that red color was very popular in one country. Leads a bit of a hint to the product itself later on. And you can see another example here with our sensitive HME, where we had 4 different rounds of development with input from patients at each stage. We had 106 patients actually trial the HME and give feedback. And really what we did was tweak the base plate, until we got it right, finding that balance between adherence to the skin and skin friendliness as well. And again, we'll show you the final product in full detail in just a few minutes. Next slide. So at Atos, we continue to try and create products that respond to and address patient needs. Starting in 1995 and 97 with the normal and the high flow HMEs, for those of you who have been around as long as I have and remember those, moving on to our extra moist and our extra flow in 2009, and now innovating with Provox Life 12 years later. Not only do we strive to make the best products, but with Provox Life, we've really focused on trying to improve the quality of life of laryngectomized patients through the new innovative design features of the products themselves. And here you can see the development journey of our base plates from 1995, taking us up to our new Provox Life range today. Okay, next slide. But when we launched into Provox Life, we had some challenges we set ourselves. And again, this is all based on the research that we conducted. The first challenge was to improve and optimize HME humidification and breathability. So in a sense, to make a better HME, we needed to make the HME more breathable, but also to make it humidify better. Next slide. It's a difficult task, though, as these fundamental properties of an HME, humidification, breathability, and size, which you can see here in this triangle, they're all completely interlinked. If one is modified, it has a direct impact on the other. So let me explain this in a bit more detail. If we look at humidification first, so the first triangle on the left, to improve this, we really need to look to increase the density of the foam core so that it retains more moisture. But this would make the HME harder to breathe through, more resistant. So if we take breathability, on the next, in the middle there, to make an HME easier to breathe through, we would need to make the foam more porous, but this would also reduce the volume of the foam and negatively impact humidification. So in order to improve both, you have to change the size of the HME itself, which you can see there on the last box. Next slide. So you can't do this just by increasing the height, though. And interestingly, we tried this with a 22 millimeter HME, so the same coupling as the Provox range. But in order to achieve the levels of humidification desired, the HME was actually 4 inches tall. Obviously, it's not low profile enough, and then you end up creating this channel to breathe through, as you can see in this picture here. So it kind of funnels everything into a narrow channel, making it the resistance very high, almost like breathing through a straw. Next slide. So we really needed to look at what we could do. So we thought, should we go wider? And increasing the total HME size by increasing the width will make the HME easier to breathe through. It's just physics. And this is a great visual where you can see that. You can visualize the air flowing through the tall, narrow channel on the left and the much easier flow resistance with a larger surface area on the right. A good analogy is like a traffic jam on the motorway where you have 2 lanes of back-to-back cars, and then it opens up to 3 to 4 lanes and the traffic just begins to flow. So in a nutshell, if you increase the height of the foam of the HME, you get better humidification, but an increase in breathing resistance, and that overall work of breathing becomes harder as well. So instead, we look to increase the diameter of the HME. The diameters for Provox Life HMEs were increased by 1 millimeter from 22 to 23 millimeters. This is a 4.5% increase. But as the volume of the foam increases with the square of the diameter, the volume of the foam is actually increased by 9.3% in total. So a pretty big percentage increase. And this allows for significant improvement in humidification performance, but also in breathability. And you can see here the increase from the 22 to the 23 in the coupling. But what we've also done is we've made the rings softer and more flexible. And we've also decreased the height and lowered the profile. All of these provide a tighter seal to the stoma for a more secure fit. One unexpected finding as well during the product evaluations was that the patients found it easier to access their VP for cleaning with this slightly wider aperture. The second design challenge we had was to improve that adhesive seal, not forgetting base plates, and also to try to prevent the HME from being coughed out or popping out. And that's because if you remember, so next slide, please. If you remember from some of the data above, 41% of the time patients reported the HME actually pops out when they cough, a higher percentage than I would have expected. We wanted to make something more secure, but also easy to remove, and that had a lower profile. So in comes this technology we call secure fit technology, which actually gives this audible click to hold the HME securely in place, yet the coupling is softer and more flexible, making it easier for patients to remove and replace the HME. So the new coupling system works together and it's compatible across the whole range. So on the next slide, we have a video in order to explain things a little bit more about, or explain the innovation of Provox Life a bit more, to introduce you to some of the HMEs. We have a video here from a member of our Provox Life research and engineering team who's really worked extensively on the design of these products. So I'm going to hand it over to Frederick. I don't have any sound. I don't know if anyone else does.
No, not just at the moment.
Sorry, guys. We're just gonna
with the pros and cons to create a storyboard.
There we go.
The main issues. Let's start with product confusion. During the research phase, we followed a number of users in their home, at work, and during their hobbies. And we noted down their activities during the day with the pros and cons to create a storyboard. The main issues, let's start with product confusion. As we know at Atos, the benefit of using an HME and how humidification level affect the cilium movements and the effect on mucus. However, the HME benefit was not so clear to some of our patients in our research. Instead, patients used their products according to their own logic, a logic defined by their everyday realities and not clinical rationale. As a consequence, some of them might not use an HME and lose the benefit totally. And the reason for this confusion might be that visually there's no difference between extra flow and extra moist. Our patients only notice that flow is easy to breathe through. Or otherwise, I mean, like Micron, they think that it's a big, ugly HME. And they don't understand that it is an electrostatic filter inside that filters dust, bacteria, and viruses. And of course, when they go out, they want to blend in. They don't want to show off the stoma. I have met users that stopped going to places due to excessive mucus. His wife actually describes it that he was hiding in the closet. In the middle of this picture, you see a welder, and I met him in Birmingham. And his hobby was on Sundays to join a walk club. But after his operation, he had problems to keep the pace of his age group. So he actually has to walk with those that was 15, 20 years older than him. So yes, lack of breathability limits what you can do. Next slide here is regarding the design objectives. And we will start with superior HME performance. Breathability and humidity is two performances that counteract each other. So if you increase, for instance, the breathability, you lose humidity, and the other way around. So it is impossible to have both in the same HME. So design objective here was to be compliant, to have a good lung health. We set the baseline for humidification to the same as extra flow. And the breathability to be better than extra moist. So you have this area of compliance. And then we try to stretch the breathability as far as possible without coming below the humidification baseline. Easy to choose products. So the design objectives have been that each HME should have a visual design that reflects its benefit to avoid confusion. And also the HME has a modern design to fit seamlessly into everyday life. And then an HME for every occasion. So most people have similar activities every day. I mean, they sleep, they relax, working, socializing. And of course, there are also other common activities, for instance, being active, as when you go for a bike ride or a long walk or cardio workout. And of course, and there also a need for protection from dust and virus and bacteria. And we have developed 5 HMEs to meet those needs in those situations. When optimizing the performance for the HME, we have been altering the airflow characteristics, pore size, salt concentration, to either improve breathability or to improve humidification. So for instance, home has significantly improved humidification and still comfortable to breathe through. Energy, we have improved the breathability to a level that is no longer limiting the activity of our user without sacrificing humidity. Protect. Breathability is now in line with the dedicated situation. So you can go out and meet other people, go to the doctor or do light work without losing your breath. And speaking is done by closing the lid, like for the other HMEs. Each product in the portfolio has a visual design that reflects the benefit for each situation to make it easy to identify the correct HME for the dedicated situation. And Life HME has a modern, smooth design with features to see that this is a family of products.
So as Fredrik has reiterated there, the new Provox Life system was developed on the basis of thorough research and is designed to address the challenges that patients experience with HMEs and attachments or base plates. And quality of life is really at the center of all of the development. So when we optimize HME performance by increasing humidification and maximizing breathability, patients will get a reduction in mucus and coughing, and then we'll enable that 24/7 use. And with 24/7 use, we build upon this positive circle that improves quality of life. So I'm going to hand over to Emily now, who's going to give us a description of the Provox Life range.
Thank you, Alana. Good evening, everybody. My name's Emily Blackwell. I'm the head of marketing here at Atos Medical. I'm delighted to present to you the full Provox Life range this evening. This system has evolved as a result of taking what we have today and what we know are the unmet needs of the users to improve upon that current system to make sure that we reach a better patient outcome. Next slide, please, Chloe. So Provox Life is a flexible and complete solution that covers patients all the way from morning to night. It allows patients to engage in more everyday activities that they maybe felt they could no longer do, and supports them no matter where they are on their recovery journey. It consists of 6 high-performing interchangeable HMEs that ensure the right balance of breathability and humidification, really encouraging 24/7 usage across the full range. The newly designed adhesives that you can see there adopt the clover shape to suit a larger variety of stoma contours. They're all made from improved materials and feature the patented secure fit technology and lower profile coupling that you've just seen, and will give patients much more confidence and comfort as a result. Next slide, please, Chloe. Okay, so we'll now take a bit of a deeper look at the HMEs themselves. I'll go into each one individually and look at some of the performance and some of the key features of each. So the first thing we wanted to do with the new range was to give each of the products names that would be much easier for patients to identify in terms of what they might be doing or the activity that they might be taking part in, to really help them to understand when to use which product. We've also introduced icons and colour coding for each product. So you'll see in the corner there a little house in a circle. So that's actually the official icon for Provox Life Home HME. We've taken that identification a couple of steps further as well. So in all of the product packaging, throughout all of the materials for both the patients and for you, you'll see that colour coding and icon usage throughout. The next thing we've introduced to help patients to identify the products, you can hopefully see on the image there, we've actually now printed the name of the product directly onto it, so it's very easy to see and choose between the different HMEs. So we're really trying to bring that identification all the way through to help and avoid any confusion that patients might have, so they know exactly which products they can use and in the right situation. So to talk a little bit more about Provox Life Home then. So this is an HME for all patients, no matter where they are on their recovery journey. It's the HME that provides the highest level of humidification of our daytime HMEs, and is really for when patients are relaxing at home and are doing activities that don't really require a high level of deep breathing. And as you can see from the slide there, it provides 9% higher humidification compared to Provox Extra Moist, and 14% higher breathability as well in comparison. The next HME is Provox Life Go. So as hopefully the name will identify, excuse me, this is a product for when patients are out and about, on the go, or even maybe being a little bit more active around the house, maybe doing the housework. You'll see here again the change of icon for Go, as well as the change of colour within the icon. Again, this is a daytime HME for all users, which provides lower breathing resistance, but still providing some good humidification, so helping to provide that lung health even when patients are out and about or doing slightly more physical activity. Next slide, please, Chloe. Moving on to Provox Life Night. So hopefully the clear naming and theme with those names is starting to become a little bit clearer. This is an HME again for all users. It's the HME that offers the highest level of humidification to help to reduce coughing so that patients get a really restful night's sleep. A really exciting feature of the Night is that unlike Luna that we have in the existing range, this HME is compatible with all attachments, both adhesives, Larry tubes and Larry buttons. It's very soft and comfortable, and helps to improve that lung health while patients are asleep. It offers 14% higher humidification compared to Provox Luna, as well as an 18% increase in breathing resistance. And interestingly, 90% of patients on the pre-market trials for this product found that it was actually easier to breathe through than Luna. Next is Provox Life Energy. Now this to me is a really exciting product, as there really isn't anything comparable on the market today. What we saw from the RED study that we've talked about a bit today is that patients have really struggled in getting back to any kind of physical activity that goes further than just a walk. You'll see here that the interior foam is blue, so we didn't land on red, we did go with blue. And as you saw from Alana just previously, this came from many rounds of iterations of the products and the innovation process, where patients told us that they really wanted something that felt different and much more matched kind of the bright coloured clothing that they might wear when they're exercising. Energy offers 63% higher breathability to Provox Extra Flow and 4% higher humidification, which I hope you'll agree makes it a much superior product to what we have today. It offers really low breathing resistance for taking part in more strenuous activities, good humidification to continue their lung health, but is mostly for patients who've adapted to their new life and feel really confident to get back to taking part in physical activity again. Moving on to Provox Life Protect. During COVID, guidelines of course recommended that all neck breathers wear an HME-F when in public and away from home. Protect warms and humidifies the air, but we have changed the electrostatic material to increase breathability. Protect HME not only heats and humidifies the air, but it also effectively filters bacteria, viruses, dust and pollen. We've been able to offer 20% higher breathability than Provox Micron. And you'll also see that the occlusion button just in the middle there that features on Protect is a little bit easier to use, which is one of the issues that some patients had reported with Micron. And lastly, with the HMEs is Provox Life Freehands. So this is for patients who have successfully adapted to their new life and are really looking to take that next step into being able to speak hands-free. Instead of having two distinct freehands HMEs, we've actually consolidated them into one with improved performance in comparison to both of the existing freehands HMEs. We've increased the volume and density of the foam core and added a lip for easy removal. And the great news is that it can be used with a patient's current flexi voice, as it's 22mm on the side facing the valve and 23mm on the side of the attachment. So you can see here from the images the difference in sizes of the foam within each of the HMEs, but also I'm hoping that it's clear enough that you can also see the differing levels of density of each of the foams as well. The improved and redesigned HMEs optimize humidification, offering it to patients in all sorts of different situations, but continuing that lung health, making it much easier for patients to use HMEs 24/7. If you haven't already downloaded some of the materials that were sent out to you ahead of the webinar today, then please do look out for the follow-up email that will be coming tomorrow. There's a lot of new materials that come with Provox Life to help both you and your patients, including Provox to Provox Life conversion guides, HME and adhesive selection flow charts, and detail aids that help to show how Provox Life really supports patients on that recovery journey. I'll now move on to talk about the adhesives and the attachments. So the Arrange overall has now adopted that innovative clover shape that you saw earlier. It provides patients with a much better fit and much more comfort. The range that we're about to show you is suitable for a variety of skin types and stoma contours, much broader and wider than today. And they all feature that secure fit technology and low profile coupling that we talked about earlier. And of course, the really key feature is that all of the adhesives and attachments are compatible with all of the HMEs. The first adhesive is Provox Life Standard, which you'll see over there on the left. So this would be for patients with a flat to moderately deep stoma with a normal skin type. It's soft and flexible and is available in 3 different sizes, round, oval and plus, to provide a really strong seal for a variety of stoma contours. This would be for patients who are currently using Flexiderm. And you can see there some data at the bottom of each of the products. And so what we see is some really positive feedback from user pre-launch evaluations. So for Standard, you see there that obviously 93% of the patients who've tried it already, who were using Flexiderm previously, reported that the shape really does fit very well to their neck. The next adhesive along the line is Sensitive. So again, an everyday adhesive for patients who have a flat or moderately deep stoma, but who maybe do suffer from sensitive or irritated skin. It's made from skin-friendly hydrocolloid adhesive and again is available in those 3 different sizes and is very much designed to follow the contours of the skin. This would be for patients who are currently using Optiderm And again, the user feedback, very positive, said that sensitive was comfortable. The next adhesive is Provox Life Stability. So this is a more firm adhesive made from medical acrylic. It provides stability and a really good fit, even if the stoma is quite deep, and is also ideal for those who might speak frequently or who want to move on to take that next step and speak hands-free. So this would be for patients currently using Stabilibase. And again, what you see there is that the users who have tried it said that stability actually adhered better to the skin when they were speaking hands-free. And finally, we have Provox Life Night Adhesive. So again, for all patients, and this is made from high-tack hydrogel adhesive. And as you'll know from Luna today, allows the skin to recover while patients are sleeping. And of those former Luna users, they report 81% of them reported that Night was comfortable and actually are better than the Luna adhesive. So really strong feedback so far. Next slide, please, Chloe. Thank you. Our Provox Life Lary tubes and buttons are also now compatible with all Provox Life HMEs. Alana will talk in a moment about the advancements we've made to the Provox Life Lary tubes, but just to briefly mention that there are now 4 different types available. The 3 types that you're used to seeing, obviously the standard with ring and fenestrated, but we've also now added a fenestrated with ring. The white ring tube is also now available to use with Provox Life Luna, so patients continue that skin health overnight. And of course, as I mentioned, they're all compatible, the full range of day and night HMEs. So hopefully you can see from this image here just how flexible the full range is. It provides the ability to truly personalise the system based on the needs and activities of your patients. As you see here, we mentioned the colour coding, so really does help with that easy identification with the icons to make sure that the product really does suit the situation. Just to briefly mention about the packaging as well, I've talked quite a bit about the colour coding now and the efforts we've made in trying to help patients understand their product selection. But you can see here from the image some of the product boxes, and this is exactly how they'll appear when they're delivered to you and to your patients. You can see the colours and the icons are really very clear, both on the external but also the interior packaging of each product as well. And the final thing to mention about the packaging is about the newly designed blister packs that you can see just to the middle bottom there. So moving forward, this is where the products will now be housed within the boxes. So unlike the sort of plastic bags that we use today, each of the products will be individually stored within its own blister. So it's much more hygienic. They're very easy to just pop out of the blister, meaning that patients only need to touch one product at once. There are also perforations between each of the blisters, so patients can simply tear off the amount of products they might need to take with them during the day, which obviously then keeps them clean and clear of any debris in their bag or their pockets. We've also taken our first steps to becoming environmentally friendly. So the material that we've used for the blister packs is bio-based plastic. So although it's not yet able to be recycled, it is made from recycled material. We've also made the box that the products come in recyclable as well by removing some of the plastic coating. And again, you see that colour coding going both on the external and internal packaging. Thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to hand back over to Alana, who will talk a bit more about the engineering and design innovation.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm going to go into some of the technical details, and we're going to start out looking at the new Provox Life Lary tubes. So what we have here is that same patented secure fit technology that we talked about, that lip snap technology that also features on the new base plates as well as the stoma or the Lary buttons. What we've done is we've angled the ears of the wings of the Lary tube, and we've angled them forward just slightly to prevent pulling on them from the holder. And this was from patient feedback that we had. They're also molded in one instead of being punched, and this is to improve the overall durability. So they're all made from, it's all made from the same mold. So the durability of the ears or the wings is improved. And again, this is from patient feedback that, you know, sometimes they would become a little bit frayed, the actual ears or wings. So hopefully this will contribute to an improvement in that. Emily mentioned there's also a new model now, the Provox Life fenestrated with ring. So it's pre-fenestrated and ready for clinicians or patients to use. On the next slide, we look a little bit more into the adhesives. So Emily mentioned the clover shape and the better fit that's closer to the stoma, that can get in closer to the stoma. And you have this more flexible base plate with softer coupling, and that's across the range. But to just explain a little bit more about the design features, you can see the 4 components of the base plate here. So you have the carrier, the adhesive, the liner, and then the coupling itself. And with the standard, which we sort of describe as our everyday base plate, it's made with an acrylic adhesive, which is the same as the Flexiderm. But what we've done is we've added more glue per square meter, which will adhere better to the skin, but also prevent blow through, which is air kind of moving through the material of the base plate and then loosening it so it comes off. And we've managed to reduce this by 300%. The carrier does also still let moisture through though, so it's gentle to the skin. And during our user evaluations, we got reports that it was still quite comfortable for patients to use. With the sensitive, it's still a hydrocolloid, and the actual layer of hydrocolloid is the same thickness, but the carrier is thinner. So we really wanted to make a thinner base plate that was more flexible and fit better to the skin, and we've been able to achieve that with the sensitive. Hydrocolloids, as we know, are a skin-friendly material, and they're also used in wound care. The sensitive, in comparison to the Optiderm, also has a higher absorption capacity. With the Night, it's that same high-tech hydrogel. The Night is actually 60% water, and it's combined together with glycerin and mesh. It delivers moisture to the skin, but it also absorbs moisture as a hydrogel. And again, you know, we know that hydrogels are used in wound care, particularly in the burns area. To remove this, it's removed differently, same as the Luna was, it's just gently removed with water. What's nice about the Night base plate is the coupling is the same as the others in the range. So if a patient has sensitive skin and wanted to wear the Night potentially during the day with a different HME, they could as well. With its stability, it's the same acrylic tape described in the standard as well. Although the changes to the coupling seem small from a 22 to a 23, there's a big overall impact to performance. With that secure fit technology, it allows for patients to feel more secure and that the HME is really in place and it won't pop out. We have a smaller, softer, and lower profile coupling as well, which allows for that tighter fit to the stoma. And then the next slide, I'll get a description about this. So here you can see in this diagram, it illustrates the old coupling that we have, or the old adapter in red, and the new dimensions here in gray. And there's actually a 5 millimeter difference in the width or the outer diameter of the coupling as it attaches to the base plate. So it's 5 millimeters smaller. The Provox Life is 34.5 and Provox is 39.5. And what that allows is, I'm trying to demonstrate in these photos here as I'm holding the base plates, there's a lot more flexibility to the base plate. So when you apply it to the stoma, you can get as close to the stoma as possible, especially when you have a patient who has a really deep stoma. It makes a big difference. You can nearly bend it in half and get it into the stoma. You can see the Provox Flexiderm on the right with that rigid ring and a wider kind of coupling just there. And then the new Provox Life Standard on the left, which has a whole lot more flexibility. And this is something that you can feel when you have the base plates in hand as well. Next slide. So throughout the course of innovation, we needed to be sure we were improving our HMEs. So this is just to look a little bit more at the HME performance. And this shows the humidification performance, which is measured in moisture loss, and the breathability, which is measured in pressure drop. And you can see we've improved from high flow and normal to extra flow and extra moist, and now again even further with the performance of the new Provox Life HMEs. So we're really always trying to increase humidification and breathability. We know that increased humidification results in more efficient mucociliary clearance and a healthier overall pulmonary system with less mucus and coughing. Increased breathability allows the patient also to tolerate the HME and therefore have better HME compliance. With Provox Life, it's really great that we don't have that trade-off between humidification and breathability. So we've really been able to improve upon humidification without having to sacrifice breathability. And again, that was just in that 1 millimeter change from 22 to 23. With the night HME, patients can wear any of the Provox Life attachments, and we have further increased the humidification. So it's our highest HME in terms of humidification. The night HME does have a slightly higher breathing resistance when compared to Luna, its predecessor, but it was still reported to be comfortable during sleeping respiration from the user evaluations, and that's what Emily reported earlier. Now more than ever, we know that patients want more protection, but with Micron, they really complained of breathability issues. So the new Protect HME offers good protection while significantly decreasing the breathing resistance. So patients are able to wear this more when they're out and about and get that higher level of protection. It does still also contain the electrostatic filter that the Micron did as well. Okay, so here we often found that patients became confused with which FlexiVoice HME to use. So what we did was combine it and just get the best of both, so that the breathability and then humidification and the Provox Life Freehands HME is better than both of the existing HMEs right now, which we have for the Freehands. And you can see that in the chart, what we have here. So overall, on the next slide, we have a look at the Provox Life HME system, and we see that it continues to improve humidification without that sacrifice in breathability. And this is just to continue to drive patient outcomes and quality of life. By the way, all of this data is available to review in more detail if you'd like to with us. This is just illustrating here the improvements made across the range so that you can see we have done our homework and looked into the performance of the HMEs. Next slide. So Emily mentioned some patient feedback on the base plates from the product evaluation. Just want to show you one slide here on some of the feedback from the HMEs. This is from 59 patients who took part in 5 countries, the UK included, where we asked about the use of the Home, the Go, Energy, Night, and Protect in various situations. And the HMEs all scored between a 4.1 and a 4.8 on a scale of 1 to 5. So we're really pleased to see that there's good satisfaction across the board with these HMEs. Okay, and coming into the final part of the presentation here, the great thing is we don't just have our pre-trial evaluation. So at Atos, we're committed to evidence-based products, and we've begun to collect data in the countries where Provox Life has already been launched. And we can share with you now the patient-reported outcomes that we have on file to date for Provox Life. So in the next slide, you'll see that we started with 20 patients, and this is from the Nordics and the Netherlands, but we'll be adding to this data as we go along and expect to have over 200 patients worldwide contributing to this data, all anonymized, excuse me, and collected with patient consent as well. So the table here shows the patients who took part. The age range is between 36 and 72 years, so 36 is quite young to have a laryngectomy. The mean is 5.9 years after surgery and shows their skin type and their stoma shape as well. Patients were already compliant, so this is really interesting. They were using an HME already for about 22.5 hours a day. So, we thought, how can we improve their pulmonary health even more? I'll go into that in just a second. In terms of how we collected the outcomes, we did it via a survey, and then coughing and mucus symptoms and also the impact were also recorded with something called the CASA-Q questionnaire, which is a standardized measure used in COPD patients, so it's applicable to our patient group. We looked at the time points 2, 6, and 12 weeks after Provox Life use, and this survey included information about not only the HMEs but base plates as well. Okay, next slide. So we had 5 main findings so far. We had significant improvement in all 4 domains of the CASA-Q. So this is specifically frequency of coughing up mucus reduced from 9.7 times a day to 5.8 after 6 weeks. And this really does show a significant improvement in pulmonary health. less shortness of breath. The mean score went from 2.4 with their usual HME regime to 1.9 when using Provox Life. Fewer HME blockages, so only 25% changed the HME due to blockages in comparison to 50% before. So that shows a big change, and patients having to go through less HMEs on a day-to-day basis. A slight increase in adhesive life from 27 to 29 hours, and a slight reduction in skin irritation from 50 to about 45%. On the next slide, we look at the CASA-Q in a little bit more detail and the findings from here, where we found a statistical difference after 6 weeks of Provox Life HME use in comparison to usual routine. And you can see the trend here is similar to the research I presented earlier on from Perilla, where the change takes place at about 2 weeks. Here, however, patients are already compliant with their HMEs. The change will be less, but we still see a significant improvement in pulmonary symptoms when they continue with their HMEs until 6 weeks with Provox Life. A couple more slides to go. We also found a statistically significant difference between Provox Life and the usual routine with regards to coughing incidences, and this was at the 6-week mark. So a big impact on mucus and on coughing and pulmonary symptoms with these HMEs is what we're seeing so far. Less patients overall indicated their main reason to replace the HME was for blocked mucus, which I mentioned earlier. It went from 50 to 25% after 6 weeks. They did begin to use HMEs in different situations. So for example, they would swap to the energy for exercise instead of having to remove the HME entirely. And this could have a big impact on a patient's ability to use an HME 24/7, having a more breathable HME for the right situation. Just also to mention, we've got some additional Provox Life studies that we are pulling together and working on at the moment. And the first one is in Italy, and these are randomized control trial studies. The first one was with 40 patients comparing the usual care regime to Provox Life HMEs over a 12-week period. And the primary outcome is going to be the number of expectorations in 24 hours. And then we've also got a study on energy at the NKI in the Netherlands, where we have 10 patients undertaking physical exercise wearing the energy HME and comparing it to home or go versus energy. So again, we're really committed to bringing out evidence to sort of back the performance of the HMEs that we've seen so far. And just to finish up here, we've got some testimonials from some clinicians who've already seen the products and worked with them a little bit. And I just wanted to share this with you. We had one clinician here who said that a lot of work has clearly gone into such a comprehensive range. Another one who said that the color coding is a big benefit and really helps patients to differentiate the products. And also, so some patients who are early on, but also later on in their journey as a laryngectomy, moving towards the environmentally friendly packaging is a big bonus. And last but not least is one of my favorite quotes. I think the new range is very impressive. My role as a clinician is to provide evidence-based care to my patients. And now what I'm seeing from Atos is evidence-based products. So we're really pleased to get some of that feedback. That brings us to the end of our presentation. I know there have been a couple of questions come into the Q&A. So I think we'll stop sharing and we'll get all of the panelists on. Hey, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and lead us through some of the questions. We also got a couple of questions that came in ahead of the webinar, so thank you for sending those in. So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and get started. As Ashley mentioned earlier, we do have Ivar van der Linden, who's joined us from our global team. And Ivar works on the pulmonary rehabilitation team and was really involved in a lot of this innovation and the refinement process of the Provox Life HMEs and base plates. And I know Ivar came over to the UK and interviewed some of our patients here. So Ivar, the first question is going to be for you, and this came through earlier, as I mentioned. Did the UK, they took part, as I mentioned, but in general, what was their feedback? So what kind of feedback did you hear from the patients that you met here in the UK about the Provox Life system?
Yeah, thank you for having me on a call as well. But as you said earlier, throughout the development process, we engaged with more than 450 patients from 11 different countries. And out of these 450 patients, 60 were from the UK. So we had actually quite a large group, more than 10%, more than 10% coming from the UK. providing input on the products of Provox Life, which is it's not a specific product. It's really a system of solutions. It's both the HMEs and the adhesives and the coupling. But so we've approached and worked with patients through focus groups. And in these focus groups, we focused on concepts to discuss like features, what do you like and dislike. And then we also went back again to show them prototypes, which were 3D model printed products that they could touch and feel, but not use, and really tell us, okay, these are features that I like and these are features that they dislike. And so we rejected them. So when it goes through that funnel process, in the end, we came up with a product then that we actually CE marked, and then went back again, also again to the UK patients to have them really try these products for a period of time to understand if the products really work as we have designed them to work, and if it really fulfills the needs of the patients. So feedback has been on multiple things. It's maybe tough to dumb it down on one thing, but for example, if we take an example of the adhesive, um, they really liked that the clover shape of the adhesives, that they really felt that it provided a better fit.
Great. And anything particularly on the HMEs? I was just going to jump in and ask about the HMEs as well.
Yes, multiple things. Also, what we tried to do was to improve the HME performance, so optimizing the balance between humidification and breathability. And so when we did the product evaluations, for example, when they actually could try the product for a period of time, we did hear that they felt that the breathability was lower. We also heard feedback that they felt there was less dryness in the trachea as well.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. We've actually had just a live question come in that I thought would be great for you to answer as well. Do the adhesives or HMEs come in different colors to match skin tones?
Good question. For now, we have only developed beige colored HMEs for Provox Life, but we are absolutely constantly listening to customer feedback and are open to it, and are considering to expand it in a later stage. So anytime you hear feedback from patients that really want this, please feel free to share it with the team, the UK colleagues, and it will definitely come back to us in Sweden as well, so we can share it with the engineers and look at bringing this to market.
Yeah, I know we've had that feedback before, and as Ivar says, they actually collate every single bit of feedback in the global office that we send through, and they keep it in a very organized system so they can actually look back at what the feedback has been. So please do send us that feedback. But thank you for that question. Ivar, one more question for you. I know that you've been working with the Netherlands and the Nordics as well when they've brought the Provox Life products out. And what have you seen the biggest impact there be with their patients?
Yeah. Okay. So with Provox Life, we really want to improve the quality of life of patients breathing through neck stoma. Mm. And one of the ways to improve quality of life is to improve pulmonary health by the uptake of HME usage. And in order to improve the uptake of HME usage, we have improved the performance on the HME by optimizing humidification and breathability, as I said. That can help with the uptake of HMEs. And what we've heard then from the Netherlands and from the Nordics through the post-market surveillance is that they experience less mucus production and thereby less coughing. What we have also said is that, or what we've also heard is that we wanted to come out with different HMEs for different situations. Fredrik also mentioned that in the video that breathability may limit some of the users to do what they want to do. And he said that he met one guy, a welder from Birmingham, that couldn't join the walking group, and he had a hard time to keep up with his peers in the walking group. And now that we have come out with different HMEs for different situations, such as Provox Life Energy HME, they are actually no longer limited by breathability. And this is also actually something that we hear from the Nordics and everybody that's been part of the product evaluation, so the pre-market trial, so to say. Those are some of the things from Protect HME, which is not only an HME that warms and humidifies the air, it's also actually has an electrostatic filter for the extra protection. So it actually does filter viruses and bacteria and other airborne particles like dust and pollen. What we heard as well is that patients that have tried Provox Life Protect HME actually say that it's easier to breathe to. So they can actually use the HME with protection, with filtration, even if they're doing light work. So they don't lose their breath anymore. So those are some of the things that we've learned.
It's great to hear about Protect, and thank you. You answered someone's question about there being an electrostatic filter still, like there was with Micron. And I know we certainly get feedback here in the UK about the breathing resistance being too high of Micron. So it's nice to see that that's been addressed. Thank you. Ashley, we have had quite a few questions that have come through live, and also one previously about the pricing. So can you explain to everybody who's listening how the pricing of the new range compares to the old range?
Sure. Thank you very much, Alana. And thank you, Ruth, for the great questions. I mean, first of all, there is no change to the price when we sell into hospitals. Okay, so the product that we send to you in the hospital will be exactly the same price as the old Provox range. And I think, Ruth, you've also asked us whether or not we can swap out the existing stock with the new stock for no additional cost. Yes, absolutely, we can do that. You just need to get in touch with your Atos representative who will facilitate that change. These products will go onto the drug tariff from April, and they have been approved now on the drug tariff, which is great news. The pricing varies depending on which HME and which adhesive you look at. We try to keep the most expensive ones line priced exactly the same. So, for example, Micron and Protect are the same price, and I think Luna and Knight are also the same price. There are some increases across the other range, and if you take the average usage and you look at the blended price increase, we're looking at about 15%. Now, we really do believe that the amount of innovation and the improved performance really does carry that price increase, as well as the moving forward that we've made on the packaging. So yes, drug tariff on April, blended price increase of 15%, no change to the hospital price, and we can swap out.
Thank you very much. That was another question as well about when they will be available on drug tariff. So one other question here that has come through for you, Ashley, about when the current products will be withdrawn.
Yeah, we've got no plans. Yeah, we've got no plans to withdraw it at the current time, because we realise there's a lot of patients who are still on the Provox products. I mean, we do really believe that from all the feedback that we see, both in the labs and also in the markets, that this is a real move forward for everybody in terms of their HMEs and adhesives. So over time, we expect that migration to happen, but for now, we have no plans to discontinue the existing range.
Thank you. I'm going to take another question that came through earlier and also here in the Q&A, just about whether or not the new base plates and HMEs are compatible with other manufacturers or with our previous line. And as I explained in the presentation, to improve the performance of the HMEs and sort of optimize the humidification and breathability, for the benefit of the patient, we had to increase those HME dimensions. So this means that the secure fit interface of Provox Life isn't compatible with other brands. The secure fit has like a flexible lip and it locks the HME in place, while the Provox HME, which are previous, uses like a different kind of system. So the two locking mechanisms are unfortunately not compatible, but hopefully, as we've explained throughout the presentation, the design innovation that we've made has really been a significant improvement for patients. And we're innovating with this line. We're sort of moving from the sort of, like I mentioned, the high flow and the normal to the extra flow and the extra moist, and now moved on to our new innovative line, Provox Life. But thank you for that question. Hopefully that answers it. Another question for you, Emily, about materials that are available for clinicians if they want to find out more, and potentially how to access samples, if Ashley, you didn't touch on that already.
Yeah, thank you, Alana. So I mentioned just briefly before, there are a huge range of materials available now for Provox Life, some that are specifically for you as clinicians, but some that are to help you with patients when you're in clinic, and also then some specifically for patients as well. They are all available now. So there will be a short survey coming out just after the webinar finishes this evening. So if you would like to hear more, if you'd like to access some of those materials, do let us know and we can make sure that they're sent to you. There are some available on the Atos Medical website currently as well. And as I say, we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow with some of those resources included as well. But do reach out to your territory representative and they'll be happy to take a call to go through more detail about Provox Life, talk about the complementary stock that Ashley just mentioned, and also if there are any sampling needs that you might have, they are forthcoming and available, and I think that's probably a conversation best taken with the representative to look at which products you might look for, and also, as I say, which products will be available to you in the complementary stock replacement.
Thanks so much, Emily. I don't see any more questions coming through, and we answered the few that we had at the beginning as well. So if that's it, I'd just like to say a very, very big thank you to all of you for joining us tonight, and to everybody on the panel as well. I'm really excited to say that we've recorded tonight, and we're going to be sharing the recording with you, and also our white paper, which has some of the findings that we reported from those 20 patients coming out of the Netherlands and the Nordics. Please don't hesitate, though, to get in touch if you'd like any additional information on the Provox Life products. As mentioned, the first products will come out on the 1st of April onto the drug tariff, which is really exciting, but it does give us plenty of time to work with you in the clinical community so you can see the products and understand them before they become available to your patients. So please definitely reach out and get in touch, because we've got lots of samples that we can share. If you'd like a sample pack or additional information, just reach out to your Atos sales representative. Before you go, we have a very, very quick survey that Emily mentioned. It'll launch as I end the webinar. Just quick 3 questions. If you could stay and answer it for us, we'd be very, very grateful. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.